Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald here with you on Birds 365. We are joined by, from PHLY, the All City Network, longtime radio host here in Philadelphia, the Cuz, Anthony Gargano. How you been, AG?
MacBang, what's it, my brother? Good to see you guys. I love a Mac and Mac Redux.
Yeah.
Part two,
appreciate,
yes.
Yeah. Part two. Appreciate you jumping on, Ant. Good to see you. I guess and Jody mentioned the All City Network, the All NFL show with Brian Baldinger. You know, the best film guy in the business. That's you can't have anybody better breaking down stuff for you. So I'll ask you. We'll get basic. You've been following this team a long time, Anthony. Where are you as far as this hiccup? Are you on the Walt Whitman, ready to jump off, saying this team is done, or a more cerebral approach and say adversity, hiccups was going to happen? They can right this ship.
Yeah, I'm definitely the latter. Like you mentioned, so Baldy and I break down all kinds of tape. I mean, we've seen everything, and a couple of the conclusions. One, I mean, they did go through the gauntlet of the schedule, and having played Dallas, and then you roll into Kansas City on the Monday night, Buffalo, you're kind of fortunate to get away with those wins. Then you run into San Francisco, which was a complete buzzsaw. And then Dallas is a very good team. Look, that offense is legitimate. Again, I think there's some real issues in the back end of the Eagles' defense. But other than that, I still believe in their offense. I know people talk about being predictable, but look, they had 3 drives against the Cowboys that ended in fumbles in plus territory. That's not a bad football team. I'm sorry. And look, if you run the table, you still got the 1 seed looking for, waiting for you if you get lucky. They're a good football team.
All right, Anthony, part of the problem, and the Eagles coaching staff saying, everybody's saying it, I'm sure Baldy's saying it, is on the back end, lack of communication, that they're just not communicating well, that they're not talking to each other. They don't know where one is supposed to be. Domino effect, all of a sudden somebody's open, it's a chunk play. How do you improve communication for guys at this stage of the year? They've had to go with guys who haven't played all that much. They've brought in guys from the outside who weren't here during camp, when everybody gets to know each other and refine that communication. How do you improve it on the fly?
Yeah, that's something that only comes with time. I'm a little disappointed in the safety play. I mean, I just think that it hasn't been very good. You look at the age of the corners, and what really kills this back end is less communication, and they have no slot corner, man. That's a huge problem for this back end. And then, I saw the communication issues. I mean, there was one against the Cowboys where you saw it and you went, yo, what's going on here? There was one against McCaffrey on an option route, the one where he's wide open, where somebody they're expecting some help over the top. It's not there. I mean, look, you need Byard to feel good, and you need him to get integrated. But time's the only thing that's going to heal that. And I just don't know if the talent is there as well. That front has to get to the quarterback. I mean, I think the only way that this defense gets fixed is if they pressure the quarterback.
Yeah, and kind of, you're right. I talk about that all the time, Anthony, the fact that the best cornerback on this team, Jody was talking about, how do you stop DK Metcalf? You stop DK Metcalf by getting home on the pass rush, because it's not just him. It's Tyler Lockett. They have very good receivers out in Seattle. If you give the quarterback time to throw, and it looks like it's going to be Geno Smith, you're going to have some issues holding up against those types of receivers. The third down stuff has been the most alarming to me. Nick Sirianni constantly talks about situational football. He prides himself on situational football. And that's the biggest play, right? The biggest down in the NFL. Third down, they're 32nd, dead last. That's unacceptable. Yeah. And we mentioned, you and Baldy breaking down film. So you see some other teams. I've been talking about it today with Jody. I'm in love with Brian Flores. He's got no talent.
Oh, my God. We've been talking about him.
Oh, dude.
John, you're so right. what he's done. Look, that defense was abysmal last year.
Yeah, it was one of the
Remember
worst I've
what it
ever
made
seen.
Daniel Jones look
Yeah.
like? I
Yeah.
mean, he has done a brilliant job. That defense is so much better. You're spot on. And I do think that part of it is Desai kind of getting his feet wet. And, listen, you have two first-time coordinators. That has to hamper them a little bit. I mean, look, Brian has had some issues at times getting into a rhythm, right? He's a first-time play caller. That's all real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing, real quick, guys, I don't get your opinion on this, but I'd like to see them integrate some more pressures from defensive backs. I know that Sean, anytime he likes to go with pressures, it usually is the Mike or usually is one of the linebackers. I'd like to see him, dial up a corner blitz once in a while.
Yeah, it would help. Bigger picture, and I'll throw this out to you, both you guys. And I don't know if you've talked about this with Baldy or not, and let me know if you have, because I'm fed up with this Big Fangio defense. I'm fed up with it. I think, and you've been around for a while, Anthony. Tony Dungy cover 2, people catch up. People copy it. Offenses see it too much. People catch up. Pete Carroll cover 3, people catch up. Mike Zimmer, the A-gap stuff, people catch up. Then you got to adjust to go in a different direction. The pendulum goes back and forth. I think we're past the tipping point with the Fangio defense. You agree with
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, listen, you're one of my dear closest friends is Steve Spagnuolo from the Chiefs. And, you look at what Spags does, and, we talk, a couple times a week. And I'm always picking his brain about the all his exotics. That's why I brought up, using and pressures from your defensive backs. I mean, watch what Spags will do. And it's not just, and people have that misconception that it's always going to be bring the house or man zero or anything like that. It's not that. It's not. Someday, you're going to drop guys back in coverage. It's disguising where the pressures are coming from. And I think that's where, if you look at Spags and they've been carried by their defense this year, the Chiefs.
Yeah, they have been. Yeah.
And they started last year. How many rookies did they have playing against the Eagles in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
They made that commitment to youth last year, and it paid dividends. Yeah, unfortunately, at the end of the Super Bowl against the Eagles, and it's continued to pay dividends this year for Spags. Here's my one issue with your got to bring somebody from the secondary on the blitz. Who? Part of that has to be the guy has to have speed. And you would prefer someone who's done it a little bit, who knows it just right. That split step between whether you're going to come or not come to keep the offensive line or the back, whoever's going to try and pick up the blitz guessing. They don't have that guy for me. It's a great concept. It's a great idea. But then you actually have to have a player plugged in who you think can do it. I don't think they do.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'll give you the player. Can I give you the player? Sidney Brown. You're playing him in the slot.
He's the best of the bunch. I would agree with you there, John.
You're playing him in the slot.
He's physical. You're right. He's playing in the slot. That's a great one, John. I agree. Yeah. I like him. I think he's a player.
Yeah, I think. Well, I go with Sidney. Here's, last year Howie's reigning executive of the year. Might go back to backs. Done a tremendous job building this roster. But I will nitpick one thing, Anthony. They had a little bit of a success with the in-season additions last year with Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. You think he fell in love with that a little too much? I don't like all these moving parts.
It's
You
a
go
great
all the way,
point.
You go all the way back to the summer. I'd rather, and Jody mentioned the Chiefs and your guy, Steve Spagnuolo. He had some hiccups during the season playing all those rookie defensive backs. And by the time the Super Bowl came around, they were ready to go. If you start, and I wrote about this on SI this week, if you start Sidney Brown week 1, who knows where he'd be right now?
I agree. I listen, I kept pushing for him to get that job because I felt the same thing. And you got to be willing to have growing pains during the course of the season. Look at, and not to keep referencing Spags, but if you remember the year that the Giants won the Super Bowl and Tyree and against the Patriots, that year the Giants defense was terrible for the first 6 weeks of the season. I think the Cowboys put up a 40 burger on them. I mean, it was all about growing pains and getting young players indoctrinated in the system and knowing where you got to be. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think once you identify a player, like Sidney Brown's a player, he should have been playing the whole time. I agree.
All right, let's use a nice round number here. I'm going to pick 60 out of the hat here because Eagles have 70 offensive plays somewhere thereabout. They'll have a bunch where they will not have a running back on the field, extra wide receiver, 2 tight end. Tush push doesn't even count as far as I'm concerned. The running back, he's not. No, Goddard or whoever else is pushing fine. But in plays where they're actually going to have a chance to use a running back in some way, shape, or form. If it's 60, if the number's 60, best case Anthony Gargano scenario, how do you break up the 60 plays between Swift, Gainwell, Boston Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all Swift. I'm 90% Swift. I like Kenny Gainwell. I mean, nice little back. He's kind of can do a lot of different things, but he doesn't, to me, have that explosive. Like, I know that Swift can hit a home run. I trust Swift. I mean, I'll give you. I think Boston Scott's actually a better runner than Gainwell is. I think Gainwell could catch it out of the backfield. But I'm all Swift. I'd like to see, and I'm curious what you guys think. I'd like to incorporate now again with health being the primary concern. But I'd like to see Jalen get a little bit more involved in the run game again. I just think that made it so dangerous. And I think they're missing that element.
Yeah, the +1. We've been talking about that all year. When he was dealing with the knee injury and he wasn't running, I think that was the issue with the Eagles running game.
Yes.
He's looked more spry in recent games. He had the fumble, which complicated things. But I agree. Yeah, when he to me is the key to the Eagles running game. I mean, that's why they're so good. I think DeAndre's a good player. I think he's above that. But you had a good player last year with Miles Sanders. I think it's the same thing. And if you take him out of the equation, you don't have Christian McCaffrey now,
right.
Where you can just run the football. So I think that's sort of the disconnect with Philadelphia in the running game. Maybe, you got to have that offensive line. You got to have the quarterback, the +1 and all that kind of stuff. And so it sounds good, but when your best players are A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, that's where your offense has got to be built around.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's fine to mix it up, and you got to let the pass open up the run. And again, back with Goddard, the San Francisco, where they just flooded the zone on you. I mean, they really missed Goddard, and having Goddard back for Dallas, I think will help the offense a little bit. It's going to help even more. I just think I look at them and I got to go balls to the wall and I got to attack. When I have Devontae and AJ and Goddard, I have to attack, and then I'll run it complimentary.
Yeah, no, I'm banking on the run this week. I'm not a run the football, run play. This week, oh yeah, they need to establish the run. After taking the 2 beatdowns that they took, they have to establish run. They have to establish their offensive line. We talk about it all the time, maybe the best offensive line in football. Hadn't been the last 2 weeks, that's for damn sure. Give them a chance to go out and eat this week. Open up with the run. And Anthony, shame on me. I should have heard you say this at some point. I don't. If I did, I forgot. I apologize. How much are you Nick Sirianni is right to automatically defer?
We lost that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No problem.
That's fine.
We know that if the Eagles win the coin flip, it defer. Automatic. Doesn't matter. You can do it in sleep. I have an issue with that. I have a problem with that. I thought they should have taken the ball last week against the Cowboys. Now, John will tell you, I would have said it before the game. This is not 20/20 hindsight. I say it all the time. It's got to fit the situation. It's got to fit the way the team is playing and the like. What more do you need to know about the Eagles that they have been terrible in the first half offensively this year as compared to last year? Tell me if the Eagles win the coin flip, you're standing on the sidelines next to Coach Nick and go, take the ball.
Take the ball and
Nick.
establish it. Yeah. Listen, I'm a big situation dictates it too. And usually at home, like if I want to establish something, it's like I'll take the football. But I agree. Like, I think sometimes a team needs it, and especially when a defense is struggling the way this defense is in stopping it. I'm with you. I do the same thing. I want on Monday night, give me the ball, let me go down the field, and let me build some confidence. Let me throw this at you guys real quick because I'm just curious about it. And you guys covered this team. You know this team. They have been vulnerable against good quarterbacks and good passing teams. Even if you go back to through the Gannon early to the year that they make the playoffs against Tampa, look at the quality quarterbacks that they faced, and that's been a constant really for the 3 years. Good quarterbacks carve them up.
Yeah. Well, I go back to what I said before about the scheme, and this particular scheme, I think we're past the tipping point. The good quarterbacks, and that's why I mentioned before. I remember the Bears Colts Super Bowl. If you remember early in that game, Peyton Manning threw an interception. The Colts got down, and you could see on his face, he was like, all right, I know. I pushed it too far.
Yeah.
Chicago was a big cover 2 team at the time.
Yeah.
And they had Brian Urlacher, one of the great cover 2 linebackers of all time. You could see it on his face. He's like, I made a mistake. It's on me. I got to figure it out. And they just killed him the rest of the game because they weren't coming out of cover 2. And I remember Urlacher screaming at the sidelines late in the game. He's like, we got to do something. We got to shift.
Like this death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
You know, you if you're patient, you'll crush this defense. You just that's it. Bottom line, I'm so with you. I'm over it as well.
Yeah. And I think the good quarterbacks are the ones who obviously figure it out quicker. So the whole point of it is disguise it to post snap. They know what you're doing.
Yeah.
They know what you're doing, and it becomes easy for them. And that's where you need the sort of curveballs. And that's why, and I don't want to throw people under the bus because you probably got the best film guy in the business when it comes to media. You get to bounce things off of, but you see it. I'm sure, Anthony, you get all these film guys.
Yeah.
And there was a clip of Nolan Smith in coverage, and people lose their minds. Well, you go all the way back to Dom Capers. That's what you do. You throw curveballs. It's not designed to him to cover somebody downfield. You're hoping to confuse the quarterback.
Correct. Yeah. It's a zone blitz.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, Jim Johnson did it. Dom, like you said, did it. I mean, that dropping the end back is something that a lot of those guys would do all the time. And you're right. It's just meant to disrupt it.
Yeah.
People think like you're going to go, you're playing man downfield. And They're going to put Nolan Smith on Tyler Lockett. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. So you got to be careful with that stuff. But that said, Sean's got to be better. And I don't know if I ask you to put on the Sean Desai mask, and it is a mission impossible. So I use the mask. What do you do, Anthony? How do you fix this?
Yeah, the problem is a couple things. One, I have to worry about my back end bad. I need to get pressure. The only way that I'm going to survive is if I get pressure on the quarterback. So I got to rely a lot on my front. My front has to eat. I think that's the only way. And I do think that they've hit a bit of a wall.
Yeah.
I think that, Jalen Carter is a great player. He's hit a wall. I mean, you can see it. I mean, and that's not uncommon. And I think that's part of their problem because they're so heavily dependent on the front.
And, oh, by the way, we can get on Sean Desai's case, and we are. Josh Sweat, win a one-on-one battle. Hassan Reddick, win a one-on-one battle. How
Jody can tell you, and I said San Francisco week. I told people this is not a Josh Sweat week. You know, he's facing one of the great left tackles of
who's
all
he got
time.
this week? Are we going to give him?
No,
a pass
this is where it's got to get better.
Okay,
When you go back to back, Trent Williams, Teron Smith. I mean, it's not a Josh Sweat. That's where the other guys got to step up.
Well, did you see the play? There was a great play. In fact, we highlighted it. That Shanahan cooked up. Remember the play where Purdy gets hurt last year with Hassan?
Yeah.
All right. So they run the same thing where they had Kittle looking like Kittle's going to block Hassan like Croft did, right?
Yeah.
And then they pull their guard over to block Hassan and leak Kittle out, and he's wide open for that 40-yard gain down the field. It was a brilliant play call. It was like San Francisco was ready for them in every which way. I mean, Shanahan is one of the best.
Awesome.
Yeah.
When it comes to scheming offensive plays. But well, that's another one you bring up. So many people. How could you have a backup tight end blocking Hassan Reddick? It's a play action. It's designed.
Right.
Drives me insane. But anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. What do the Seattle Seahawks and the Philadelphia Eagles have in common schedule-wise, Anthony Gargano?
What do they have in common? You tell me.
All right. They both have lost their last two games to the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers. When the Eagles were losing to the 49ers, the Seahawks were losing to the Cowboys. When the Eagles were losing to the Cowboys, the Seahawks were losing to the 49ers. They've been closer in both games than the Eagles have. I know there's not the transitive process in football, but there's some of that involved. Eagles are a favorite this week. Does Vegas have it right?
Yeah, I have it favorite. I mean, the problem is Seattle's defense. I mean, we talk about the Eagles' defense. Seattle's defense is worse. They're also banged up. They're young. This Eagle, you guys talked about running the football. You should be able to run the football on Seattle's defense. This is a week where they should get well. Now, it's a tough place to play, all right? But a good team, just ask San Francisco, because we saw them go up to Seattle on Thanksgiving night and just dominate them. This Seattle team is not a great team. This is where you got to get right and you got to win the game. What scares me is having to play the Giants twice in 3 weeks.
Yeah, Tommy Cutlets scaring you? I don't know.
Well,
I can't be scared
not
of that
so
team.
much. It's Cutlets. It's the fact that you got to play them both, twice in 3 weeks, and they're feeling good. You know how hard it is to go play it.
And it's a division game, and they tend to be closer than they look on paper. But
right, it's not Cutlets as much. Although I have to tell you,
he made some plays. He made some plays the other night.
He's a good athlete. Listen,
he is a good athlete.
We went through his tape, and he's not. He makes the right decisions with the ball. Listen, he's not
accurate.
Right. He's not. He's never going to be. He's not Justin Herbert just with his accuracy and his arm talent. But he's a good athlete, and the way they're playing, it's a little nervous, because when you got to play a team like that twice in 3 weeks, I always think that's tough.
But are they loosey-goosey, the Giants?
Yes, they are. You say it.
They're still eligible to make the playoffs. They're only one game behind the last playoff team in the NFC. They're still pressurized.
Yeah, listen, I'm not telling you that they're dangerous, like they're scary to make the playoffs or anything. Like the team that I would not want to play, that's not on the radar type of thing, is the Rams. Like the Rams offense.
Yeah, they play Baltimore tough. Yeah.
Stafford, they're protecting Stafford, and him, he wakes up and he can throw the football, right? Like he can just throw. And that Kyron Williams, I love him.
He's a good player.
Yeah.
At Anthony L. Gargano, make sure you follow Ant on X, formerly Twitter. All City Network doing a tremendous job there with the All NFL show with Brian Baldinger. Local guys, the PHLY, Zach Berman, friend of the show, Bo Wolf, friend of the show. They're doing a great job. Exciting stuff going down there, Anthony. I'll leave it here. My last one for you. Last night, Brandon Staley survived that.
Out. See ya.
how amazing is Las Vegas gets shut out and then they put up a 6. How do you explain this league? Everybody says
it's insane, right? I mean, you go from 3 to 60. Like what? Like 0 to 60.
0 to 60. Yeah, it's a car commercial.
Literal 0.
Yeah.
0 to 60. It's insane. It's like a crazy league. But the Chargers, they're dead, and they've been dead all year. And Staley was never the answer. I don't know about you guys. I think I heard you guys say before, he's horrible.
Yeah,
he's a bad
terrible.
coach.
Yeah, he's terrible.
But, and if Belichick somehow leaves there, I'd like to see what he could do with the shell of that team, including Herbert, because I think Herbert is a guy.
I love Herbert.
Me too. Yes. Yes. Me too. Yeah.
And by the way, don't forget, John and I mentioned at the top of the show, Eagles wanted to hire Brandon Staley. He said no thank you to them.
They wanted to interview him. I don't know if it got that. They wanted to hire Josh. Howie wanted to hire Josh McDaniels, but they didn't want to hire, but they wanted to interview him, and who knows what happens from there. And he was going to get the Chargers job, so he turned him down. It's ironic. If you look at the hot candidates that year, Anthony, Staley, Saleh, Arthur Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, Arthur Smith's hanging on by a thread too.
Yeah.
And by the way, Sirianni was like, "Who are the Eagles hiring?"
Yeah, nobody knew Nick. Nobody
far and
knew
away the best of the hires in that year. All right, who's the one guy you got? Nobody watches this show. It's you, me, and John just talking to ourselves, so don't worry about it. Who's the one guy over at PHLY where you just have to keep down? What are you doing? Did you really say that on the air? Did you really make that? You got anybody
Bo's kind of quirky, man.
That needs more coaching up than anybody else?
He's quirky, man.
He is quirky. I love Jamie is that guy. The bro. Or the Phillies. The bro's the guy that way. Yeah. Whom I absolutely adore and love. But I always have to. I always go.
Is Zach the Brandon Graham of PHLY?
Yes.
That dude never has a bad day.
No, he's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
I love these guys. I do. It's fun having get to work with them from more of a support kind of way, and between my Sixers guys who are killing it, the Flyers guys, and I love my Renee's killing it with the Phillies, and Bo and Zach I've known forever.
Oh, by the way, you brought up the Sixers. I got to get an NBA thing in there. But if I tell you, Anthony, that Brock Purdy is comparable to Maurice Cheeks, is that an insult to you? That's what I said. Jody thinks I'm insulting the guy. I'm comparing him to a Hall of Fame point guard. I'm like, he's a great distributor.
Yes.
That's my comp.
Did I miss Mo Cheeks as MVP?
He's not an MVP. I don't think Brock Purdy's an MVP.
They don't win a title without Mo.
Yeah, they don't.
That's something different. They won the title because of Doc or Moses, right?
I mean,
they're the stars.
You're not telling me they're going to win a title without Doc or Moses.
No, but I'm saying you're not winning it without Mo. You're not winning.
Yeah.
If Eric Snow is
if you had to put them in a pecking,
you're not winning the title.
Yeah.
If you had to put them in a pecking order, what would you make?
But McCaffrey's Doc and Debo's. Well, you can say who's McCaffrey's Moses.
Yeah.
And then who's number 2? Debo or Kittle is Doc.
Yeah,
he's not the MVP on his own team. It's not an insult.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
we'll see how the voting goes at the end of the year. I think quarterback lends itself to most valuable player. There are certain positions certain things you have to do that make you more valuable than someone else. Yeah. They might be better at what they do at their position, but as far as most valuable,
I agree with you.
Football League, quarterbacks are going to be over everybody.
To me, the award, yes, he's got a better chance to win the award because it's a quarterback award. But to me, that's not important. What's important is the sum of the and he's Mo Cheeks on that team.
I tell you one thing though, too, he impresses me, man. Just
he impresses me.
No. We're talking about just the way he makes the right decision.
Yeah.
He stands tall, like his eyes are always downfield. There's something to be said with those college quarterbacks that play, 55 games, right? That have been through the wars, conference wars, and they just come in and they're not spooked by anything, right? Like they're not freaked by.
That's a big
by
Parcells thing back in the day. Get
Yes.
somebody experienced at the college level. That's kind of wavered a bit, but I agree with you. He is way advanced for typically guys coming in the modern NFL when it comes to processing.
Yeah. And Aiden O'Connell looked like a guy who played a lot of college football last night. Just kept cha-ching, 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 cha-ching against Brandon Staley's defense. That was pretty ugly. All right, do me a favor. Just give Bill Matt a smack upside the head when next you see him. Tell him I send my regards.
You got it, Mac, man. Guys, what a pleasure. I loved it. I love talking to you guys. You guys are great.
We'll have you back on when the playoffs get rolling. Thank you much for jumping in.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
See you guys. Have a great weekend. Happy holidays.
Because Anthony Gargano here with us on Birds 365. All right, quick timeout. Running out of show. Got to come back. Put a ribbon on it.